What's going on, Guardians? It's Tizzle here, and in this video, I have to admit something. I was very wrong about Ballidorse Wrathweavers. Basically, since Stasis came into the game back in Beyond Light, I've always said that the Shadebinder Super is ass in PvE. The only time it's at least decent is when you are on the Stasis subclass and have Bleak Watchers freezing enemies, and then have Ice Flare bolts equipped so that it can keep freezing enemies over and over. This means you won't have to chuck out your melee as much, allowing your super to last longer. But in today's build, we actually have a prismatic build, so it can't take advantage of Ice Flare bolts. It also can't take advantage of the Frost Pulse aspect, which is not available on prismatic, which is a shame because half of what this exotic does centers around that fragment. So let's see exactly what this exotic actually does. It has the exotic trait Hearts of Ice. Targets frozen by your Winter's Wrath super take increased shatter damage. Allies in range of your Winter's Wrath Shockwave and Frost Pulse gain Frost Armor and deal increased damage with Stasis weapons. Granting these buffs to allies grants you super energy. So as I said, we can't get any of the Frost Pulse benefits, at least not with the build that I'm running. But even with losing half of the utility from our exotic, we can still make it work. That is for one key reason. The exotic still buffs our Shadebinder super, so much so that it makes it worth it to run these gloves even if that's all it does. Back in Act 2 in November, Bungie made a change that fundamentally changed how we build craft for activities in the future. They made it so that roaming supers could charge up roughly 3 times faster than they did before in active combat. This means that roaming super buffing exotics like Ballidorse or Stormdancer's Brace may finally be worth running. Before, when an exotic was solely tied to a super, it was too big of an investment to run that exotic because it had no neutral play and you didn't get enough supers to make it worth it. But with this change, I would argue it is worth it in the right scenarios. The footage you are watching is from a solo flawless clear of the GM Behemoth, and these gloves went incredibly hard there. That's because not only did I get a ton of super thanks to the cooldown change, but the damage versus champions also got buffed. And on top of all this, Ballidorse themselves got buffed also to do 150% more shatter damage to frozen enemies, up from 100% previously. Before these changes, this super would struggle to chunk a champion down before it became unstunned, making it not really worth running, because why would you run a super that can't kill a champion when so many one-off supers can, and they can be cast from a safe distance? It just didn't make sense to. And sure, you could use it as a roaming super, but again, why would you do that when it didn't hit all that hard? It would even struggle to take down some orange bars, but no longer. The buffs have made it absolutely chunk tanky Cabal yellow bars, as you can see in the footage. And if you time it right, you can get champions to finisher health in one stun. I have long been a Winter's Wrath hater, but these changes when combined with Ballidorse has honestly made this super worth running. And we can get more mileage out of our super by combining it with Bleak Watcher. See, Ballidorse ups the damage to frozen enemies, so Bleak Watcher can freeze enemies for us, allowing us to deal huge damage without having to throw out our ice melees. And that's important because it's the melee that uses the bulk of our super, not the shockwave cast. You can see the values from the Destiny data compendium. So if you can freeze enemies without having to throw the melee, you will allow your super to last much longer. So Bleak Watcher is our first aspect, and the next one is Feed the Void, aka Devour. This isn't mandatory, though I highly recommend it because when it's active, as you get kills, it will feed you more grenade energy, and then you can throw out more Bleak Watchers. For our melee, I like Arcane Needle as it can apply Unravel and can be used at range. This is mostly a long range build, so it's perfect here. For Grenade, we run Healing Grenade as this will give us the most grenade energy returns when we pick up orbs from Innervation. For Fragments, Facet of Dawn is great for Radiant from our melees, and when we're Radiant, we get anti-barrier rounds, giving us additional utility. Facet of Ruin is a must as it increases the size and damage of the burst when we shatter a stasis crystal or frozen target, which is something we do a ton in this build. Facet of Balance, where rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy, and rapid defeats with darkness damage grants grenade energy. If we get a bunch of stasis shatter kills, this will give us Devour, as well as give us even more grenade energy from this fragment, so it just helps us get even more grenades, which means more Bleak Watchers. Facet of Sacrifice gives us bonus Darkness Transcendence when we get ability Final Blows when we have something like Devour active, and we get a lot of shatter kills. And finally, Facet of Devotion gives us bonus Light Transcendence when we kill enemies afflicted with Stasis or Strand debuffs. We unravel or slow or freeze pretty much everything with this build, so we get a ton of uptime on this one. For weapons, because it's an at-range build, I love Revision 0 because it's just so damn good. Rocket sidearms, despite their upcoming nerf, are still going to be decent, so that's an option in the energy slot, or you could go with a glaive since they're getting reworked in Heresy. And finally, I love the VS Chill Inhibitor grenade launcher from the Vesper's Host dungeon because it's stasis. That is the other thing with this exotic that I didn't really talk about. When you're done with your super, you come out of it with 10 seconds of ×5 frost armor and 10 seconds of ×4 stasis weapon boost. So you definitely want to be running a heavy weapon that's stasis. If you didn't want to run Revision 0, then you could also use Winter Bite in your heavy slot. Its projectile can freeze a ton of targets, which has great synergy with the super. You could fire off a shot to freeze everything and then pop your super and start shattering all the freezes. It's worth considering anyways. For mods, it's quite basic. Heavy ammo finder and siphon mods in the helmet, bolstering detonation and momentum transfer for more ability energy, resistances that match the activity, absolution and innervation on the boots for more ability energy on orb pickup, and then a harmonic siphon for more heavy ammo, assuming that you have a stasis heavy weapon. And then bomber and outreach for melee and grenade energy whenever we cast a rift, and then distribution or reaper, it's your pick. It is super late in the season, so artifact mods don't really matter. The point of this video was more to bring attention to Ballidorse Wrathweavers and let people know that they are worth considering in the future, especially if we have stasis themed artifact mods. Like I said, I'm a notorious Winter's Wrath hater, as I've always thought the super is quite useless. But with how many more supers we can get now, paired with the huge damage buffs, you can actually make it work in endgame content. And I think that's awesome. The more unique playstyles we have that can be viable, the more fun the game is to play as it keeps things fresh. Also, I really like the drip on this build. Anyways, that's it for the video. If you found it helpful and informative, then a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. And if you're still here, thanks so much for watching to the end. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Hey, if you're still here, then thanks so much for watching to the end. If you like what I do and you want to support me further, then consider becoming a channel member. You'll get your name featured on the end screen, custom badges, and other cool rewards. You can also join my community Discord if that interests you, and if you want to see me stream, be sure to follow me on Twitch at itstizzle7 where I stream semi-regularly. Those are linked in the description. Anyways, that's enough self-promotion. Thanks for watching. Take care.